Oh, man, freaked out.
You're listening to the Brenton on Tour podcast.
That's right.
He travels the world running concerts and searches for the best coffee, people, and amazing stories so you don't have to.
Pay attention, you're going to learn something for a change.
This is a show about all of those things and much, much more.
You're blowing my mind right now. I hope someone's recording this.
So settle in, pour a cup of amazing coffee. He's a coffee snob, by the way. Crank that ghetto blaster and enjoy the 150,000 ranked podcast in the land.
Fake laugh, hiding real pain.
I think that's an exaggeration. It's the Brenton on Tour podcast.
Any question?
Here's BD.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Brenton on Tour podcast. Hope you're enjoying the new season so far. Big thanks to my friend Ryan from Mother and Goldmouth last week. An amazing tour experience with those guys and great things ahead for him. He's got a solo project coming out, which was he was super excited about, as you could tell. The band is blowing up Europe-wise, doing amazing business. So super stoked. Vancouver band that has done amazing things. And I appreciate you guys tuning in for the brand new season of the Brenton on Tour podcast. Lots of guests ahead. And it's been a real blast kind of settling back in after, 6 weeks of touring and being able to talk to some of my old friends. Now, one of the cool things that happened to me many, many moons ago, one of my first country tours that I ever did was with my guest and his band, Emerson Drive. One of the best touring experiences I've ever had. A member of the band was cooking for us daily, nicest guys in the world. And it was just such a great experience for me. And I'd done a handful of country over the time, and I'd heard in infamy about how awesome country tours were and how nice everybody is. And these guys didn't disappoint. So one of the busiest guys at the time, and that was like 10 years ago, who's doubled down on his busy schedule. And welcome, Danick from Emerson Drive. How are you, sir? Good to see you again.
Oh, thanks. Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time.
I haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah, it's nice to see your face again. And
of all the things that I've toured and been around, I've crossed the land quite a lot over the last couple of years, and I never reconnected with you guys. I never you're either in Vancouver and I'm not there, or I just miss you in Regina, or I'm in Nashville and you guys aren't around. It never lines up, and it's so now with this wonderful world of podcasting, we get to catch up with people live and in person and all the rest of it, and as best we can. But you've got a great story. You're producing like crazy. There's tons of stuff that we'll get into today. But most importantly, you're back to playing shows. You're coming to me from your studio for those watching at home. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell everybody who you are and what you've been up to, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, my name is Danick Dupelle. I play in a band, Emerson Drive, and I also I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been here for 22 years. I have the studio here in Berry Hill, and producing a lot on the side. Well, my main focus now, producing a lot of artists in country music, and some you probably heard. So we'll definitely go and talk about it, I'm sure.
We're going to get into the making it portion of this. This show is obviously entitled the Brenton on Tour podcast, but I have different series going throughout it. In this particular case, we're talking making it, because you would fit that candidacy. You would fit that bill. You've been nominated for Grammy. You guys toured the world with Shania Twain. You've produced countless bands. So we're going to get into sort of like various versions of making it. But the record producing business for you seems to have really started dominating your life, at least, in the last 10 years since I've been following you on what you've been doing, and you're consistently posting stuff. Vibe Recordings is the name of your studio, correct?
Yep.
That's what's going on. And then you've been kind of going through that. Has that always been in your world as far as production goes? Did that start for you as production, or did you kind of
no, it starts production is like really like I kind of fell into it. Well, when we with Emerson Drive, like back in the day when we first got signed, like everybody was like, not a lot of band played on their own records in country music. Always a bunch of, there's so many great session guys here in town. A lot of times they use some of the session guys, and and you went on tour and play those songs. But DreamWorks at the time were really adamant about us play our own stuff and not using session guys. So I was always the one leaving last at the studio because I play guitar. You got to layer a bunch of guitars, and after that I had to sing backup vocals. So I was always at the studio. Drummer played his track, gone. Singer sang his lead, gone. Right, but I'm always there sticking around. So I kind of start falling and like, I kind of like being in the studio. I love it. So, and that's sort of like took a while to really get back on it, because we made a record, and after that we didn't go back to the studio for 2 years because we're touring, and it was always looking forward to getting into the studio. So when the band starts slowing down on the road a little bit, I start writing more, and the writing aspect brought me into making my own demos, like producing my own demos, and start like getting into that world of recording. And it's it's like baby step. You start with a little acoustic demo, and like, oh my god, that sounds good, that's kind of cool, and it went to producing artists now, and it was pretty much a 15 years process, but still learning every day.
Well, and the technology is changing so much, but I would imagine the core of it is relatively the same, but you have to stay on top of it and stay kind of ahead of it and all the rest of it. So I can't, like, I wanted to be a producer when I was in high school. I was like, and I'm searching Fanshawe College in London. And like, well, you need to get an electronics course. So you need to learn the ones and the zeros. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I do that, and I fail miserably. And I'm like, okay, I didn't understand that. I go to Long McQuaid, buy a little 8-track recorder, and I'm like, well, that didn't go well. People think it's just pressing a button and going. I'm sure it's gotten a little bit easier, but there's more to production than just pressing buttons and moving knobs. I mean, you're involved in songwriting. You're involved in moving things around. I've talked to a few producers over the years. Obviously, I've been fascinated with it. I think we're around the same age. We grew up in that magazine Rockstar thing, and I would be the one that would always check the credits and see who was producing and what that would be, and then you would start seeing a theme of different producers on all those hair metal bands, at least that I followed, and things like that. And I was fascinated by that process. So, is that you? Were you fascinated by that?
I was saying, yeah, of course. Like every time, like buy CDs or even it was records back then, like you always look inside in the pamphlet and look at who produced it, and like, oh my god, go back and listen to other stuff, and then you start hearing that sound, like just talking about Mutt Lange. I mean, you know his sound and what he's done, and it's just like, when I first met him, was like, oh my god, it's one of my heroes, right? So it was pretty, that got me into, with also a friend of mine, David Kalmusky, that really taught me a lot, and of how producing and how to be an engineer and how to do everything, and learning how to mix, learning how to, like, I'm talking editing and everything. So always like, that's like I said, when I started writing, it was more about, okay, how can I make this sound like a real song that could be heard on the radio? And it was like, okay, well, listen to this, get influenced by this, by that, and try to come up with your own sound also and your ideas. But like being in the city here in Nashville, I mean, there's so many great producers and players and session guys. You're learning every day, and I don't think there's another town like Nashville for that. And on that street where I'm at right now, like, Johnny Reed's got a studio across the street, Blackbird's down at the end of the street, and you're surrounded with creativity every day, and it's really, really inspiring. And it's just
competitive, but also
competitive in a good way. Everybody wants to help each other. Like, hey man, is it cool? Can I borrow your microphone for this? Can I buy this? What have you been working on? Oh, this is really cool. I'll try this and try that. And everybody's helping each other. That's what's cool about this town. So
the process to writing songs with an artist, like, I mean, there's various probably levels of production that people don't or aren't aware, or at least, do you have a definition of what a producer is?
It's almost like, like us, if I go back as Emerson Drive, we could have produced ourselves, but you need somebody that stands out and try to guide everything, because being six guys, I mean, it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, right? So, I mean, you try to, somebody that's going to lead. And I think a producer is like a leader, and he inspires you to be the best you can be and sound the best you can be. So you just like try to understand what the artist's sound is, and understand what he likes, what's his favorite artist he listens to, and all that stuff. And you try to I don't know what would be the word. End of the day, usually my French just comes out, so it's hard to find words. But try to find his sound, and try to really like respect his sound. And so because
Yeah.
you have in country music right now, there's so many genre of what country is. There's your traditional, there's like your pop country, there's more rock stuff, and it's very, very wide. So
Can you give us an example? I know in my head what's there, but for you, like as an example, it's like, well, this artist for sure is traditional. This one is more rock country. This one is a different level of country, because there's there is, like any genre of music, you've got pop, and it's like Ariana versus Rihanna versus Christina. You've got Metallica versus Megadeth versus Slayer. You've got stand-up comedians that are different. So country has its various forms, and some people like this style more than, like, I'm more of a bit of a traditionalist. So for me, I'm a little bit more into the traditional style. At least that's what I grew up on. I mean, it was the Willie and the Waylon and all that stuff. But do you have an example, like examples that where you're like, definitely can this and this? These are like the three most popular.
Because last night, I mean, Stapleton was playing a Pilgrimage Festival in Franklin. So I feel like Stapleton really owns that traditional rock country music, and his vocal is amazing. And after that, you can go completely over here left, and you got Sam Hunt, and you got, it could be Jamie Allen, could be Tebe's pop country, but also falls a little bit on the traditional. And oh my God, there's so many, it's hard to think. But after that, you got Luke Combs that kind of touched that 90s country, right? So I feel like who I'm producing right now, Tyler Joe Miller, we had a lot of success. He's kind of in Canada, that Luke Combs kind of style of country, and that guy right there. And also Matt Lang has a little bit of that Luke Combs thing, but he falls into the Dwight Yoakam sound, and the Bakersfield sound mixed with his stuff. And I kind of like it. I do it all. I produce any kind of style in that country genre, and I love it. And that's what's cool. But I grew up listening to Merle Haggard and Buck Owens, and that's what I grew up on. So it's funny when
this is Matt. This is Matt too, right?
Yeah, this is Matt. And when we wrote one of Matt's big single called "Getcha," I wrote that with Tebe and Kelly Archer and Matt, and it has a little bit of that Bakersfield Dwight Yoakam to it, and Buck Owens, but also with like more of a modern production. But it was fun when I picked up my Telecaster. It kind of brought me back to the Buck Owens and Don Rich guitar stuff that I did, and it was like, oh, this is so cool. I mean, it's so inspiring, so much fun doing that stuff. I mean, I miss it. But I like today I was working on something today that was like more on the Justin Moore kind of vibe. And after that, Tebe showed up and showed up for like a half an hour on a song that we're writing right now, and it's got a little bit more pop stuff, like could be a San Hunt thing, or so it's fun. It's busy. So,
I'd imagine that would be a challenge, like anything. And I, going back to your point about the role of the producer, and I had the Diesel on a couple months ago, and he was talking about there's no A&R right now, so there's no one to say no. So everyone's producing some stuff, but there still needs to be some kind of A&R work where people go, it's no one's saying no to anybody right now. Like everyone's, or at the very least, that A&R position seems to have vanished in some cases. And I'm curious, when you're putting something together like this, and you're an artist that you're talking about, you're trying to find out the genre that they like. You're trying to find out who they're influenced by. But you've got to take your Grammy nomination, your awards. You've got to take, the things that you've accomplished, like this, and put it in, and still try to convince them that not necessarily your way is the best way, but you might know what you're talking about. And with country being so vast, and to your point about like, well, it's traditional country with a pop flair. It's like, God, you got to walk these lines to really get it right.
At the end of the day, the song, you got to have a good song. When you have a really good song, it just kind of like, it's not easy. It just gets easier because your ideas comes from left to right, and it just falls into place. Especially when Tyler Joe Miller writes a lot of his own music, and as soon as you start singing, I know what to do with this. And again, what you're talking about, like so many different ways, you have to have the trust, and the experience of, with Tyler Joe, he came out during pandemic. And his first single, Out of the Box, #1 in Canada. I was like, oh my God, that's great. Second song, #1. Okay, cool. We got a sound, we got something, and it's working. So we try to follow and try to keep going with that. And it was the same thing with Matt and Tebe too. If I go to Tebe, now we're in pop and more pop country, and things have been going crazy with him with Denim on Denim, and it's happened on a Saturday night. It's just like I'm having a blast. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I love being in this room. Everybody loves, like, my worst day of the week is Sunday. I hate Sundays because I come to this neighborhood, nobody's working. I'm the only one like going to the studio and being creative.
Right.
But when Monday comes around, you see all those studios on that street all packed. There's so many people, and you just feel the energy. I just love it. So you come out and you try new sounds, and you got like the new technology of finding like sample of something, and you mix it around with something, and you, oh, hey, I got something cool here. Oh, cool. Let's try that. Let's write around this.
It's almost lightning in a bottle. It's almost lightning in a bottle. Anymore. Yeah.
There's no.
Well, I would agree with that, because I have, country like anything else, like, and I'll walk this carefully because I'm not trying to make too many comparisons, but like in the 80s when you had your Poisons and your Skid Rows and your Warrants, there was a spot where it was like you had your kind of leaders, and then things started, from there. It was like every band, rock song, ballad, rah, 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 go out and play, and all the rest of it. And that's been every genre of music. And country for a while, I was personally, from a listener standpoint, at least over the last 10 years, was finding the formula relatively the same. I think that Stapleton performance with Timberlake kind of changed it a bit, because that was like, who is this guy? That opened up this whole thing of, oh, well, there's this other side of country and traditional country that's out there as well. And I think it's fascinating, because now I'm hearing more styles of country than I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Like, I'm just hearing all these different styles, and that's got to be exciting for somebody.
And what brings it to that? I think that opens that door that it's called country. It's about the lyrics, right? The lyrics that's what country music is. It's feel like it's like a very conversational. You feel like you're with your buddies and drinking beer, and it's really chill, and it's really fun, and I think with that, you just change the production a little bit. You still have a country song, but the production goes completely left, and it's cool. I think it's cool.
Can you answer? And then we'll get into the band and a few things. But I actually have a question for you about the country writing process, because I've heard about the Nashville country writing scene. So part one of this is when you're with an artist and they come to the table, you're like, I think we can adjust that lyric a little bit, or we can do this, or we can do that. That's maybe you one-on-one with the artist. But then I've heard this other side where there's like 10 songwriters on one song, which is the same as pop or whatever. But what is that process for country.
And country, I mean, the typical of way of writing here, and it's been like that for a long time. I personally think, let's go back about 10 years ago. You wrote a song with pick up my acoustic guitar, and there's two other guys, three-way split, and we just write a song. And after that, well, our publishers or whatever, the publisher of the other writer, if somebody didn't have publishing, but somebody had a publishing, so they go, okay, well, we have demo budget, so let's go to a studio down the street. Yeah. And they're gonna have a slot for us from like 10 to 10:30. Let's cut our song. They'll cut the song. You pay demo budget, and you have a song. And now with that, you pitch it. And you have, right? So every publisher split the cost. Now it all changed. It changed quite a bit. Now there's, in every room pretty much now, there's somebody that's going to be the track guy. So with the technology that we have today, with programming drums, that sounds like a real drum kit. That sounds like somebody played it for real in the studio. You have those like plugins that can make that happen. And so this track guy will be here and start putting a template together of a groove, a beat with something like a pad machine or whatever. And if I go into like, oh, let me grab my guitar, I'm going to put some guitars in. Now you listen to something in the speakers with a beat and you get influence. Now lyrics are starting to flow. And so a lot of times, because this is what I do, I'm the track guy in a writing session. So if Tebe and my friend Jimmy are in the back behind me, they'll start going with melodies and lyrics. And I'm like in there and just putting my headphones on and keyboard and playing some stuff. And after that, I said, hey, look, I got this here. Oh, this is cool. Okay, cool. Well, that brings me an idea for this course. So you don't really have like the
full band. The full band anymore. Yeah.
And after you're done this writing day, if you finish the song, you pretty much have a demo, right? So somebody leaves with at least an incredible work tape. And after that, maybe like I'm talking about Tebe because I write so much with him. He said, hey, let me come back. I'll come back tomorrow and maybe we'll lay a really good vocal on this. I said, yeah, no problem. Let's do that. And I lay a vocal and I found edit vocals and I start mixing it. And after that, you pretty much have like this is funny. Tebe last year wanted to do a riding trip. So me, my friend Jimmy Thao, and Tebe went to Tulum, Mexico. So I brought my backpack and I put my little Genelec speaker in the backpack and my little interface and brought an electric and an acoustic. We went with a SM7 microphone and went to Tulum. We wrote this song. We went out. This is a funny story. We kind of went out, and it was like we probably drank some bad water, had some bad ice. We kind of got a little sick, and we wrote this song. What was I drinking last night? And that was a single for Tebe. It went like I think top 10 in Canada. But I did the whole thing at the dining table. In Tulum, and brought the files back to the studio. I'm like, I don't have to do much here. Let's just re-sing it because you sang it in the kitchen. I got better microphones, but that's it. And the song was pretty much like done. I just had to mix it.
It's amazing how something like that comes together. You know,
what was I drinking? Oh my God. But I don't know if it touched really your question, but the writing.
No, it did, and absolutely is because there's different methods of of production, and there's different methods of songwriting and all the rest of it. And my whole thing was that I had heard for years that, without giving too much away or all the rest of it, that there was a point there where, you hear the rumblings. Nothing comes out of Nashville unless these 10 guys are on it, or nothing. And I think that's changed a bit, obviously, over the years.
But there's so much new people coming to town now. That's it's a lot wider now. You got a bunch of there's a few like pop publishers that are in town now. There's a lot of pop that's been written here. So but again, you will have it could happen, and I got this track going, and after a while we just can't figure out what we should do with this, and then what if we bring so and so to jump in the song? We'll bring so and so to jump in the song. And if we can make it better, we'll make it better. We'll just split it with more people. It doesn't matter. As long as we have a hit.
As long as you got a hit.
So,
Take me back to the beginning of this here. So you did mention that today is unfortunately the anniversary of the passing of your bass player from years ago. But since then, you guys have carried on, and you've played a lot of stuff. So sorry for the loss. I'm sure it hurts every year, but kudos on pressing ahead and still putting music out and playing for your fans. So tell me a little bit about, take me back to a little bit of the beginning here of Emerson Drive, which again, I can't reiterate, one of my favorite touring experiences I've ever had. And I'm a rock guy, I'm a metal guy. People wouldn't think that I would enjoy a country tour as much, but I'm telling you, all the country tours I've done, from you to Dirks, and all the rest of it, have been wonderful. So tell me a bit on the Emerson Drive, what you guys have been up to, and sort of how did this whole thing come together?
Well, we just we're still recording music. We just released something on Spotify not too long ago called "Every Girl That Got Away." We started playing this year after the pandemic. That was kind of fun. It's really weird. I mean, I didn't go on tour for 3 years. I'm like,
crazy.
Jesus, how am I gonna? Okay, what do I do here? I haven't played those songs in so long, and there was a part of me, like, I was touring so much with Emerson Drive since like late 90s to up to now, like before pandemic. We played so much. And we're like, there was 10 years we played over 275 shows a year. It was like crazy. And now that I just spent 3 years at home sleeping in my own bed, I was like, oh my God, do I want to go back on the road? I just don't know how to do that anymore. So anyway, we got some days, we'll go play them. And so we went and did a rehearsal. The first day back in June, I got on stage and I'm like, that's fun. I remember how fun. This is awesome. I love playing. Freaking love playing. It's just like, maybe I'm not. I wouldn't like to go back on the road 275 days a year, but I mean, give me that little fix, like every year, to do about 10 to 15 shows. I'm all about it. But definitely the studio it was hard to leave. But not only that, I'm a little older, so go on the road and just do a one-off here and a one-off there. I'm back at the chiropractor for 3 days, but
well, and traditionally, from a touring standpoint, like, country are generally weekend warriors anyways. I mean, it's rare that you get this like world tour happening, which walk me through that. But you guys broke on Shania, correct? Or you broke before and then Shania took you out?
With the success that we had prior to that, got us to tour with Shania. And it was like the perfect timing, her going back on tour again with the Up Tour. But if I could go back to how it all started with Emerson Drive, I mean, we're just a band called 12 Gauge at the time out in Grand Prairie. And the manager was looking at signing them. He was Jerry Leisky, was the manager for Farmer's Daughter at the time out of Vancouver. And the guys needed a guitar player. And so he said, you want to go check it out? I said, yeah, I'll go check it out. I'm interested in signing them. So I went and met the guys and went to Grand Prairie. And I'm like, as soon as I heard Brad's voice, and at the time it was Chris Hartman on keyboards. And my harmonies, the three of us, I was like, oh my God, there's something special here. I don't know what it is, but there's like a connection. I really believe that we could go to Nashville and get a record deal. And so that's when our drummer came in, Mike Melancon, came about. And 2000, we head down to Nashville and did a bunch of showcases and got signed to DreamWorks Records. And so after that, we released the first single, came out 2001, and we got a number 2 on Billboard with the first single, and the second single, the same thing, hit number 2. And after that, we're nominated for CCMAs and winning Canadian Country Music Awards, nominated for an ACM, and I think that's what triggered that Shania Twain tour, because we. The ACMs were in April, I think around April, or at the time, I think we did. We got nominated for an ACM and we won. for top new vocal group, and we're going accepting the awards, and Shania's in the front row.
Right.
So at the end of that, we knew she was going to go on tour, but I've heard from our agencies, and there's no way you guys are not going to be on that tour. It's not going to happen. Okay, whatever. So we get backstage, and on the way we leave, Patrick, our bass player, he started talking to Shania in French because she was learning French, and she had a kid with Mont, and they were teaching him French. So there was a kind of a bit of a connection. And blah, blah. She was very super nice. And the way we go back on the road this summer. In September, we go to see CMAs, and we won a couple of awards again. And she's sitting there, and and this after that, we got the phone call and said, hey, we just got the call that you want to open for Shania for 3 shows. I said, well, where? I said, Hamilton, Toronto, and Ottawa. Yeah, let's do it. I said, there's no dates yet? And he said, no, this is this artist, James Otto, that's got it in the States. I'm like, okay, whatever. And we do the first 3 shows. And I remember the first show, there was no sound check. It was the first show of her tour, Up Tour. So she hasn't done the tour yet. So the sound check went forever. And Mott Lang was there. Just to make sure everything was sounding right. And after we got on stage, people were already sitting in their seat, and we just plug it in, and we started playing. No sound check. Our ears was like, it's not all right. But after that, we got done, and who comes back in one of the dressing rooms, and we hear a knock on the door, and it's Mott. Say, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mott Lang. I'm like, yeah. I know. Good to meet you. But here's the kicker is that we had a song on our first record called Only God Could Stop Me Loving You that he wrote. And he comes and says, hey, I just want to introduce myself. And I was listening to you guys play it. It sounded killer. And after that, I know this song. He said, oh, I wrote it. And I'm like, cool. Well, he said, just want to let you know, it's no sound check today. I'll make sure tomorrow you get a guy's got a good sound check. So we get to Ottawa or Toronto, I can remember. And he goes, we had a 2-hour sound check. I'm like, unbelievable. Really, that never happens.
Right.
And we did the 2 shows, and after that was done, she went back and did that thing. She was playing in New York or a couple on the East Coast in the States. And 3 weeks later, we get another phone call saying, hey, you guys want to do the whole tour? I'm like, wow. Oh my God. Yeah, it was amazing. And it was it was the best tour we ever done. I mean, that would have
been a time that you sold records, where people actually sold records too. Yeah. So I guess my question, so were you at a number and then you did that tour and then it was a way bigger number? I mean, I know that sounds like it's dumb.
It was, I got to say that, to be very honest with you, is a weird timing, because that's when DreamWorks and Universal and MCA all start merging together.
Right.
So a lot of stuff changed. But again, the fan base that we got from that tour was unbelievable. With that tour, we did the North America twice in that same tour, in the fall and in the spring and summer. So yeah, the fan base went crazy. It was amazing. I mean, to be able to reach out to what's 24,000 people in those arenas, especially Montreal. It was the biggest one. It was 26,000, I think, because she had a Sanders stage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was incredible. But just the experience of that tour was just to see how big of a machine she was, and how well treated we were treated. Amazing. She had those tours. You've done those 90 employees traveling with her.
Well, then you have to take some of that and you want to pay it forward. And then the artists that are opening for you as you go through, it's you want to, but there's still business to be done. So you got to walk that line. Not to mention, when you do a tour like that's in the round, that's different than end stage. Oh, yeah. So you've got I don't know what restrictions they put on you, but sometimes
what's amazing is that we asked her, what can we, because we couldn't play full band electric, but we're allowed to have a drummer. So our drummer had a set, but it was in the middle, there was a platform in the middle of the stage that went around. So we were setting up there, and we asked the first show, so what can we do? What can we not do? Because oh, just run everywhere. I'm like, really? Okay. So for we redid a version of like The Devil Went Down to Georgia, that Charlie Daniels song on our record. And so Brad and the fiddle players were on wireless, just running over the stage. We had access to everything. They didn't mind. It was like unbelievable. Like a lot of times, as you know, like you're not allowed to step over this. You're not allowed to use this. You're not allowed to use that, right?
I think in that experience, though, you know, you guys are the preview for what's to come, regardless. So, you know, if you are running around the stage, I mean, that only helps ticket sales. And not that she would have ever had a hard time selling tickets. What I'm saying is that people don't know what they're going around. Metallica in the round, like all these bands do in the round. But it's like you go there not knowing what to expect. And that would have been before kind of the internet-ish, the blow up that we're in now as far as that goes. So the only thing that's getting that word out on that is we went and saw them, and Emerson Drive were amazing, and they're running all over the stage. But not only that, but people will visualize what Shania is going to be like up there while we're watching you, and it only helps her. I think a lot of artists, you know, I heard this story about Kiss one time where and it might have changed, but the idea was like, what can we do and what can't we do? And I think the idea was do whatever the hell you want. It'll never be as big as us, but go ahead. Exactly. Like it was just like you can blow up 10 things. We'll blow up 1,000. So it's fine. Exactly. Like there was no threat from the opener.
But you know, there's a lot of artists that don't want to let the opener to do anything. And you know, that's one thing we got from her is that, you know, the opener, give him the chance to do this. Give him that chance to access that stage and have the dream to get there eventually, hopefully. Yeah. And if you're treated well when you're at the bottom, you're going to treat people well when you're at the top.
Absolutely.
And just another tour, getting off of Shania a little bit, we did Big and Rich across Canada, like I think it was 10 shows across the West Canada. And that's one thing I will remember from Big and Rich is that when we played Grand Prairie, because the band came from there, John and Big Kenny knew that we're from there. So they said, hey, tonight, just hang out like while we're doing our show. And they said, like, they brought us back on stage. And I said, we want you guys to do 2 more songs, but use all the platform and do everything and do 2 extra songs. And they sat on stage with us and they brought some shots and we had a big party. And they said, you know what? Tim McGraw did that to us a long time ago. We want to pay forward, right? And amazing. That's what I think touring and headlining should be. Artists that are headlining should treat the newcomers like the right way and try to get them to feel that, like, you know what, you can get there. You'll be able to get there one day, and it's going to be a blast.
You just keep feeding the machine, which is great because everyone will talk about that for years to come. And that happens in all. That's not just music, friends. That's every single profession in the world. You know, and someone taught. You have people that you've learned from a music production side of it. Some kid's going to come in there like myself that failed electronics and can't work an 8-track or recorder, but all of a sudden you're like, well, I was there once and here's what you need to do. And it's a little like, it just pay it forward all the way around. Trust me, it's a great thing.
It's the same thing in production here, like producing. I learned so much from my friend David Kalmusky. Like I learned everything. He showed me everything I know. And after that, I went on my own and did my thing. And now I got like other people coming by, hey, I'm having trouble. Is it cool if I'm going to hang for a couple of days and I just want to watch you work? Of course. And I'm going to show everything. I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to do what he's going to do. It's not going to sound like me because I don't know what he's going to do, which song he's working on. But at least if I can help him out, like somebody helped me before, so I need to help somebody else. And that's how it goes.
There's room for everybody. Room for everybody. Okay, I will get to last 2 here, and then I'll let you go. We're on the Making It series here, so I want to get your definition of making it. So let me just find it. So the idea basically being everyone has their sort of like goals and dreams that they've gone after, and things change over the years, and you've opened for Shania and you've done all the things. But what is your definition of making it?
Well, I could talk about it for a long time, or it could be very quick. I feel that making it to me is be able to live making music. And it's really not easy. It's really hard. Some people have like extremely success, like making a lot of money. And we know a lot of those people. But at the end of the day, are you able to live making music full time? And after that, loving every day of it? Because at the end of the day, to me, I think making music I'm not working a day in my life right now. I'm playing my guitar for a living. I mean, I'm so grateful for that, and work my ass off to try to do that and keeping doing it. It's not over. It's never over. Like you always say, the hardest thing I think about making it is try to stay on top as long as you can. It's the hardest thing ever. But making it, like, it could be very like, oh yeah, I think I made it if I was nominated for a Grammy, or if I won a Grammy, or if I won some awards. It doesn't have to be that. You're making it if you're making music every day. I think is like, it doesn't have to be all like be rich, and it has nothing to do with that. I think it's by making music. I know I have the luxury of getting up in the morning and driving and go for breakfast, and if I come here and come to work and come play, it's very humbling to be able to do that every day. It's not easy, but if you can find a way to make music every day, I think you're making it every day. And after that, try to stay out there.
Right. But
if you get satisfied, you're going to go backwards. I think you always got to keep pushing forward. Absolutely. You got to look new tricks, there's no shame on, like, I buy a bunch of videos of different producer. I'm subscription. I get subscription to like a bunch of like websites that see people mix songs, and some of my friends that are mixing songs, and I watch them, and they're going to do one little thing that I know how to do this, but I didn't know how to do this in that particular place in mixing, or that little trick there. Oh my God, I never thought of this. But just those little things like that will keep you fresh. And so you never, in what I do, you never stop learning, and you spend a lot of money on gear.
Yes, and especially with the ever-evolving, as we discussed, the ever-evolving process of country music and just the different feelings and trends. I was just in Vegas for like 10 days, and they have that bar Losers at MGM, and it's all country bands from Nashville, and they kind of play the same 15, 20 songs or whatever over the night, and people kind of partying and doing the whole thing. But the theme is, everyone's partying, having a great time. It's such a good vibe, and everyone's just loving life and doing it. So it's kind of interesting. And then they'll throw in a new song and people still react the same way. Maybe it might not be like Friends in Low Places, where it's like the drinking song of drinking songs. But as you touched on, lyrically, it always seems to connect people, which is the big thing about country music. So I think you answered the question, but has Danick Dupelle made it?
Oh, I know. I'm still trying. I don't know. There's like, I think it goes about if I made it. Like, I'm making a living and today, and I have to keep making a living tomorrow. So I have goals, and I think everybody should put themselves some goals out there. And could it be any goals is bad, and there's no bad goals. It's whatever fits you. I think I've been in this business. I've been with the band 25 years. Right there, I think I was able to make it. I guess in the band we got a lot of success over the years, and we're still together with all the ups and downs that we went through. And that's longevity is the hardest thing to do in this business, because the lifespan of an artist a lot of times is like, if you get a good 5 years, you're lucky. If you can go beyond that, I mean, my God, it's amazing. But having goals. If I made it, I don't think I can answer that. I'm not done yet. So
No, that's a great answer. And I guess you're going to keep some of those close to you. But is there one definite major thing still on your list?
Oh, because I write songs and I write and I produce music now a lot more than I play live. There's some of those bucket lists that you love to check. And of course, I'd love to have a number one song I've written. It doesn't matter if you're in of course, the States or Canada. I got close in Canada, number two. Maybe we find have a number one song. I write those just say hey, I was able to do that and achieve that. And it's I don't think those are just I just want to keep. I want to be able to do this in my late 70s, 80s. I want to keep playing music. I want to be able to do this, right? Yes. That's what I love doing. If I'm able to sustain that, it would be amazing. So.
Well, I think your trajectory is moving. Keep at it, kid. Huh? Keep at it. Never mind the stadium shows in the arenas. You're gonna do it. You keep it up. So
I'm living through more now. I'm more excited about the people I produce, and that you can get some hits on the radio, and they get a chance to headline an arena tour, and that's makes me so happy that I help a fraction of their music to get there. And
I mean, it's part. It's like anything. It's like someone that might not have won the Stanley Cup, and I can't. Everyone has their own definition. To me, as formerly in a band and who's in music in a different thing, you in your head, you're like, I'm going to play in front of millions of people. We're going to have gold records on the wall. But it's like there is something just as satisfying as somebody that you taught to do what you're doing, and then for me, anyways, they're running a big tour around the world. So I'm like, amazing. They listened for 2 days and they're teaching me because they've learned something new, whatever it's going to be. And you get to pass that along. So I'd imagine if one of your artists goes number one, you're going to be ecstatic. So
yeah, exactly. So,
well, I appreciate you joining me today, man. That's, I've been trying to, connect for a while. I think it's really great that you made the time, and I really appreciate you.
I was looking forward to it. I suck I couldn't make it work earlier. And I think we could both. I think we were both busy.
Oh man, it's been one thing after another. Okay, so Vibe Recordings. You told me today that you're still getting your social media game together. Maybe after this interview, you'll have a website and the whole thing to go to. But Vibe Recordings is where people can find you on Instagram, correct? And where else can people find you?
Danick34, I think, is my Instagram personal, and it's all this. I'm really bad at that. Okay. I'm really bad at posting stuff, but there's a few posts here and there, and I'll try to keep it up a little bit when something cool happens. But I guess the studio just keeps me too busy to post stuff. Our drummer, he says, you should post more. I'm like, post something you played. I don't know. I'm not that guy.
Well, please say hi to the fellas for me. It's been a long time to see them, but Mike, Brad, and Dale, miss y'all. Yeah. Great bunch of guys, and I had an absolute blast. It's one of my best touring experiences I've ever had.
That's awesome. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's Danick Dupelle, Emerson Drive, Vibe Recordings, winning all the things, still trying to make it.
Yeah, still trying.
Jury's out. But appreciate the time, buddy. Thanks for joining me this week.
Bud. Oh, good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Stick around for a minute, and we'll wrap this up. So, as you can tell, my friends, it's been a journey for him, and he keeps kind of going through and trying to get a number one song, and trying to your goals and your dreams and things kind of change as life progresses. But I think the trajectory's doing real well for him as it goes. But congrats to him and the fellas on all the success. This has been a fun couple of weeks so far, and next week it continues with my good friends Luke Doucette and Melissa Cullen from Whitehorse, one of my favorite Canadian bands. In the land, she's got one of my favorite voices in the land. He's got one of my favorite guitar tones and songwriters in the land. It's just it's going to be a great chat, and I'm very excited to have them on finally and share that band with you and to my listeners around the world. We got more coffee coming up. I got Tim Wenbo returning to the show, one of the best roasters in the world, and he's going to come back on. He's giving me some time, which is amazing, and still one of the most downloaded episodes on the history of this show. Yep, coffee. But hey, I keep getting asked to come back to that. Plus, as I mentioned, we're going to have more experiences that I've had along the way. I've discovered through my journey different kind of people that are, when I'm touring, they either keep me entertained on tour, whether it be through something I found on TikTok or something that's gone viral online. And I've kind of reached out to a few of them about their rise to going viral and some of the things that's keeping me entertained. And I'm going to bring some of them into it as well as my friends from the Sober app are on the way. That are going to talk about their brand new app about helping people in the sober world. As well, as you guys know, I've been drinking for about 3.5 years and touring without it, which has been a lot of fun actually, and very interesting change over the course of my career. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff on the way. So I really appreciate you listening. That's the Brent Not Tour podcast for another week. I will be back next week with Whitehorse. Find all things Emerson Drive online, Danick Dupelle online, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.